Happening now on Grid Tonight. Carl Edwards is joining Amazon Prime Video's NASCAR coverage. Will it be a good fit with Daniel Suárez and Corey LaJoie in the studio? And after 20 years together, Craig Lowndes and Triple Eight are parting ways. Why is Lowndes choosing General Motors over his longtime team? Katherine Legge's Cup Series debut was the talk of the desert. Will we see Legge back in a Cup car anytime soon? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth, and with me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and making his Grid Tonight debut, Tanner Smith from Pit Box Press. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. With that said, here's Josh with our top story this evening. Got a lot of news to discuss tonight.
We really do as well. Thank you, Kobe. Good evening to you. Good evening, Matt. And welcome, Tanner, to the show. Glad to have you here tonight. So, Amazon Prime Video have announced the newest additions to its broadcast team for coverage of the NASCAR Cup Series. Recent Hall of Fame inductee Carl Edwards will join as an analyst. Kim Kuhn, Marty Schneider, and Trevor Bayne will be the pit road reporters. Now, Kuhn's schedule just got busier as she adds her responsibilities as pit road reporter for NBC Sports and the CW. Now, Marty Schneider has worked on Pit Road for NBC Sports, and Bayne has worked with Fox Sports in the studio and in the broadcast booth as well. But going back to Edwards, he'll join the Daniel Suárez and Corey LaJoie for Amazon's pre-race and post-race shows as well. Now, after an abrupt retirement from NASCAR before the 2017 season started as well, Edwards had largely dropped off the radar completely and had gotten away from the sport. Edwards made his first appearance at the track in several years during the 2023 season at Darlington for Throwback Weekend, when he was named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers. In his Hall of Fame acceptance speech in January, Edwards talked more about his decision to walk away during his prime, no pun intended there, and why he felt nervous about coming back after leaving the way he did. Now, but he was welcomed back with open arms and has seemingly rediscovered his passion for the sport, a graphic courtesy here of Amazon Prime Video. Matt, starting with you on this one as well. Are you looking forward to seeing how Carl Edwards performs as an analyst? And do you think that Amazon has done a good job in filling out its broadcast team?
Yeah, good evening, guys. Hello, everyone. Busy week. We've been looking forward to this one. Carl Edwards. I feel like I've got a distant, vague memory from back in, 15 years ago, say, when he would pop up on the odd occasion in the booth for an Xfinity race or trucks or something. And he was good. And he's a great talker. We always know that he's great with all the sponsors, and every time everyone stuck a microphone under his nose, much like the other guys that have made the transition that are still driving. You think of Keselowski, Logano, guys like that that are doing both from time to time. It's obviously all changed around a little bit now with this new TV deal, but he's always a good talker. Great to see him back involved, as you said, all that time away after his abrupt disappearance. But great to have him back involved. I feel like he's going to be a good part of that group. They needed a big name, I guess, to have as part of that analyst core. Trevor Bayne is sort of up and coming and has done well as well. We know what we're going to get with Marty and Kim on pit lane. So, it's looking very good for Amazon's debut in the summer. Looking forward to see what they can produce.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with Matt. First of all, I just wanted to say I'm happy to be here this evening. But as for the question at hand, I am very interested to see what Carl Edwards is capable of as an analyst. I know that obviously when he was a driver, he was one of the premier personalities in the sport. A lot of people loved him. He had a very devout fan base and a very wide-spanning fan base in NASCAR. And, he's obviously got a lot of international fans. There's that clip that goes around every year around November where Edwards outdueled Michael Schumacher in the Race of Champions back in 2009, I believe. And, people love to, say that all the time when it comes to, is NASCAR better than F1, yada, yada, yada. But as far as Edwards is concerned as an analyst, he does bring a lot of expertise. He had a high level of success in all 3 NASCAR National Series, the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. He is obviously one of the best of his generation, and just based off of his reputation and his accolades alone, he should make for a good analyst. But I guess I don't have as many memories of Carl being in the booth as Matt may have, to where I can really get a full view of how he is, as far as actually critiquing any of the drivers. But what I will say is I did watch all 10 episodes last year of NASCAR's Inside the Playoffs that they did on Max, and I believe it was True TV or something like that. And he did some spot work on that. And from what I remember and what I heard on that program, he did a great job breaking things down for someone that, obviously hadn't been in a car in 8 years. And he was able to really speak to the driver's mentality, kind of like behind the wheel. So as far as that stuff's concerned, I am excited for Carl just to kind of see what he's really made of as an analyst. But as far as Prime's overall team, I don't really have a problem with it. But the one that I was really intrigued by, we'll say, was Corey LaJoie. I don't know what the programs are going to get from Corey being part of it. Obviously, I know that he has extensive experience in the next gen car compared to Trevor Bayne, let's say, and Carl for that matter. But at the same time, Corey doesn't really have any success at any NASCAR level, and he definitely seems to, in his spot gigs and Cup, pick up a fair bit of beef on the track that he carries off of it. So I'm going to be a little concerned about his ability to be professional and really, rein himself in to be a real polished analyst. But maybe that's something Prime doesn't want. They probably don't want Corey to be a polished analyst. They probably want him to fit more of the inside the NBA mold where he's kind of, taking pot shots at people. So I don't know. As far as everybody else on the team, Trevor, Kim, Marty, everybody else, I think is a very fine and great choice. But Carl, I think, is exceptional. I'm sure he'll do a great job. Corey is the one that I'm kind of I don't know.
Have to see as well what's happened later, can't it?
That Race of Champions was 2008 at Wembley. I was there.
Okay,
that was what a moment that was. Incredible stuff. And also, just because Matthew Owens will be watching and he'll get this reference, Marty Schneider will throw back to the commentary box with a question, because he does it every single time they go down to him. He'll throw back to the box with a question, most of the time for Dale Jr.
But yeah, he will do, won't he, as well? I like how it's just sort of Dale's handpicked the people he wants to work with in both Amazon and with TNT Sports as well. I'll be interested to see if, as we know that the box is staying the same for the two, whether the pit reporters will stay the same for the two. That would be quite an interesting coup to see. Moving, well, actually, to be fair, just quickly on that, I would have given Marty Schneider a go at the lead comms. He was good when he was covering IndyCar, the practice sessions for 9 hours a day. He's good at hosting on NBC. I would have given him a go at giving him one race. Just give the man a go. Moving on then to our second story of the evening with 888 Racing Engineering's Red Bull Ampol Racing Team in the Repco Supercars Championship switching to Ford next year. Longtime 888 driver Craig Lowndes has made the difficult decision to leave the team at the end of the 2025 season. Now, Lowndes and 888 have been together for exactly 20 years now. We've been together for 20 years. That's dating back to 2005. The British fans are going to get that. The Americans watching have got no idea what I'm on about. He won the team's very first supercar race in 2005 in what was a relatively new team to the main game. A year later, in 2006, Lowndes and co-driver Jamie Whincup won 888's first Bathurst 1000. In a successful partnership that has lasted for 2 decades, Lowndes earned more than half of his 110 career supercars race victories with 888, including 6 of his 7 Bathurst 1000 wins and 9 podiums in Australia's Great Race. Now, since retiring from full-time Supercars competition after the 2018 season, Lowndes has continued to compete for Triple Eight in the endurance races. Beginning in 2022, he was moved over to a third Triple Eight car for the Enduros, leading the Super Cheap Auto Wildcard program, mentoring young drivers. Now, he's worked with Declan Fraser, Zane Goddard, Cooper Murray, and he'll team up with last year's Dunlop Super 2 Series champion, Zach Bates, later this year for his final season as a Triple Eight driver. Now, in a statement, Lowndes said he's had nothing but good feelings and memories with the team over the years, calling this a tough decision due to the team's upcoming switch to Ford, but has decided to stay with General Motors heading into 2026 and beyond. The photo courtesy there of Triple Eight. Kobe rejoins us for this segment, and we'll start with him on this question. Is this the end of an era with Craig Lowndes departing Triple Eight to continue his relationship with General Motors? And Adam's already got his point coming in as well.
Yeah, Adam says when he heard the news, he couldn't believe it. Best wishes to Craig Lowndes. It'll be weird not to see him at Triple Eight. Totally agree with you, Adam. This was quite a surprise to me. And like you said, Josh, is this the end of an era? Absolutely, it is. It's every driver's dream to be with the same team for 2 decades. Yeah, when you think Triple Eight, you think Jimmy Whincup, you think about Shane Van Gisbergen, and then the other driver that really comes to mind is Craig Lowndes, who's been there practically forever since the early days of this team. And it's for him to walk away from the team to stay with General Motors, it was a bit of a surprise. And then when I was on Supercars.com reading about the business deals that Craig Lowndes has with General Motors off the track, I'm thinking, yeah, I might have stuck with General Motors as well, because who knows if Ford would be willing to give him some of the same deals that he has away from the racetrack. And I'm sure it was a real tough decision for him, because his relationship with General Motors goes way back. When he made his first supercar start, he was in a Holden Commodore and GM family there. But Craig Lowndes has driven with Ford before. After he was with Holden, GM, then he ran Ford for a few years, and then after that he vastly, just really drove those Holden Commodores, and then transitioned over to the Chevrolet Camaros as well. So he's really spent most of his career driving in the GM family. So I guess it is understandable why he would leave Triple Eight to stay with GM. And looking at next year, seeing which teams are going to be the top GM teams, I wonder where they're going to place him next year for Bafflers and the other endurance race as well with the wildcard program. And I wonder what Triple Eight's going to do with this super cheap auto wildcard program as well. Is that going to stay next year when they switch to Ford? I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that. But Craig Lowndes, Triple Eight parting ways, this definitely wasn't one of the stories that I expected to be talking about tonight.
No, much like Adam, I was the same. I saw this before the official announcement. I saw rumblings on, I think it was Facebook, I saw a couple of hours before it came out. And I was like, really? Lowndes moving away from T8? I mean, that's that big. And it's come to pass. But as you say, Kobe, if he's got so many GM/Chevrolet ties behind the scenes, I mean, he is still, even though he's semi-retired, one of the faces of the championship, and has been for, as we've said, so long. Dabbles in between the driving with co-commentary on the support categories, Utes and Porsches and all sorts of other things, Aussie racing cars. So, he's there, he's around, he's all sponsor's dream. The smile is always on the dial of Mr. Lowndes. And it's just going to be strange not seeing him with that team. Whether, the wildcard thing is interesting. What will they do? Will Triple Eight keep it, or will within their family, or will it stay as a Chevrolet thing and move to another team, be it maybe Erebus or someone like that, which is going to be interesting. Again, just interesting to see Lowndes in a completely different environment outside of the Triple Eight family. But we've talked about it on the show over the last couple of years. It's been a big turnaround at Triple Eight over the last couple of years, with Whincup retiring from main driving, Van Gisbergen obviously moving across to the States, taking Jess with him, Jess Dane, Roland Dane, the patriarch of the whole team, retiring into a semi-retirement role. Jeremy Moore was there for a long time. He's left. Couchy going to Penrite, to the Grove team as well a couple of years ago. So there's been a big turnaround of heads at Triple Eight over the last 4 or 5 years. And this is the next one along the line. I guess my Ford Falcon 3-peat 888 diecast that I've got signed by a Mr. CL now becomes perhaps more valuable, as it's a Ford one rather than a Chevrolet. Keep my fingers crossed on that one.
Get it on eBay. So
no, it's mine. There's probably only one in the country that's signed, and it's mine.
Fair dues. If you hear some knocking, like breaking windows and that lot, it's not me, I promise. Later on, it's fine. You're on eBay before the end of the night.
It's just over there if you need it. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, we need some new cash. We've got to get to Melbourne. Speaking of Melbourne, because days before the Melbourne Super Sprint at the Australian Grand Prix, the Blanchard Racing Team has announced that they have mutually agreed to part ways with Aaron Love. In a short statement, the team said both sides came to this decision at the request of Love himself. Last season was a difficult rookie year for Love, who finished 24th in the points, last of all of the full-time drivers. Now, then his 2025 campaign got off to a rough start when a brake failure caused him to crash out of the test day at Sydney Motorsport Park. After that, he did the one thing you should never, ever do in motorsports. During qualifying at Sydney, Love wrecked his teammate, James Courtney, and damaged both cars. Now, one Aaron out, another Aaron in. BRT is promoting its endurance driver, Aaron Cameron, to the full-time race seat to replace Love. Now, in the last 2 years, Cameron had competed in the Dunlop Super 2, and he finished runner-up in the 2024 series behind champion Zach Bates. Cameron said that it was a bit unexpected to get the call-up, but he's ready to make his solo start in the main game this week. The photo courtesy of Supercars. So really, what you could say is that it's for Aaron Cameron as well. It's 15 Love. No tennis joke? Oh, I'll go. Matt, same with you on this one. After a difficult rookie year and then the embarrassing moment when he crashed into his teammate in qualifying and the opener, was it best for BRT to part ways with Aaron Love?
Well, perhaps time was time on the Aaron Love experiment, or whatever you call it, let's call it. What we're now 25, so 2023, he was very, very good in Super 2 that year, won the championship. The year before, he was winning races in the Porsches as well. And it was that natural step, like, right, he's going next, and into Supercars. I don't feel like this current generation of supercar has favoured Aaron Love. And it's a shame that, I mean, that the BRT team is perennially one of the backmarking teams. It's just the way that the supercars is. They are the back end of they're the Sauber of supercars, let's say. Was it time to make a change? Probably. As you mentioned, that very embarrassing moment a couple of weeks ago at SMP when he just clattered into the back of James Courtney at no speed at all in qualifying, and damaged both of their cars. What's the one golden rule in motorsport? Don't take out your teammate. Well, he did that at walking pace. So maybe that was the final straw that broke the camel's back. But happy to see Aaron Cameron come in. Got his first Super 2 win at Bathurst, supporting the 1000 at the end of last year, and ended up second in the championship after Kai Allen's championship capitulation at the end of last season, which ruled him out of winning it. Very, very fast in that category. Took him a little while to get going, but once he did, he was always in the front group. Very good in the TCR Australia Championship over the last couple of years, driving a Peugeot, most notably, and winning a lot of races for Gary Rogers. So I feel like as much of a shame it is for Love to be benched, maybe they'll get him back for the Enduros. Maybe there'll be a switch there and get him back in as the Enduro driver. As shame as it is for Love to be gone, I think it's an upgrade with Cameron coming in. And we know that James Courtney, the other guy in that team, is retiring at the end of the season. So if they can get Cameron in and he'll have a good rest of the year, three races down, one round down, he's got plenty of time to get himself acclimatized in the team, ready for next year, where he could end up being the team leader.
Yeah, Aaron Cameron is basically auditioning for the rest of the year for that full-time seat permanently in 2026. But yeah, and this is another story I honestly did not expect, Matt. Even with that embarrassing moment at Sydney Motorsport Park when he took out his teammate James Courtney, I didn't expect them to actually fire him over that incident. I didn't call this a fireable offense, although it was really embarrassing. I remember in our private chat I said that this was dumb and easily avoidable. I just don't understand how you crash into your teammate like that and you're just getting heat in the tires and qualify. And that's just a terrible miscalculation. And when I saw Love do that, I was watching it live. I said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? That is just not something you need to be doing." And this is the perfect example of you had one job. Like seriously, Aaron Love, you had one job in this situation, and you totally blew it, and it ended up costing him his job, obviously. But looking back to his rookie year in Supercars, I have to agree with you, Matt. It really did not seem like that this style of Supercar that they have now in the Gen 3 era has suited, Aaron Love's driving style. And considering how fast he rose through the ranks, maybe this could be another example of rushing a driver up the ladder way too soon. When Aaron Love was in the Porsche Carrera Cup Series in Australia, he was really tearing it up, looking extremely fast, like someone who could be a future star if he got all the way to the top. So he did that, went to Dunlap Super 2, and in his own season in Dunlap Super 2, I believe he finished just barely inside the top 10 in the driver standings. And besides a podium finish at Perth, he didn't really do anything that truly stand out in his 1 year in Dunlap Super 2. So, and then he moved into the main game last year and had all those struggles, and then struggling and right before the season started, and then taking out Courtney in qualifying. So it's been a laundry list of struggles for Aaron Love, and unfortunately now he finds himself out of the Supercars championship full time, and it's gonna be interesting to see what Love will be able to do with his racing career moving forward. Maybe this is a case where you need to go back down and restore his confidence, because I was reading a few articles on this on the V8 Sleuth site, and they were saying that basically Aaron Love had lost his confidence, and once you lose your confidence as a race car driver, it's pretty much game over there. And I think that it might be beneficial for Love if he can find a seat at some point later this year or even next year. I think a return to the Porsche Carrera Cup Australia Series will be good for him. Especially since we saw him perform extremely well in that series last time, so he can go down again to Porsches and then be competitive and remind himself that I am that guy. I'm a good race car driver who can compete at the highest levels of motorsports, and then he can potentially work his way back up. Maybe go back to Super 2 with a good team, try to reprove himself to these teams. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Aaron Love's Supercars career is over right now. I think he just needs to go to drop down a level or two to the Porsches or Super 2, and try to rebuild his confidence and his profile. So Supercars team will come and knocking later on. But in regards to Aaron Cameron, I actually think his resume in Super 2 was way more impressive than anything Aaron Love ever did in that series. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets along this weekend at the Grand Prix.
Fighting for control of my own computer at the moment. It's wanting to throw me off into a Formula One race for some reason. So, during last week's episode of Grid Tonight, we expressed positive thoughts and optimism about Katherine Legge's NASCAR Cup Series debut at Phoenix Raceway and the significance of becoming the first female driver to compete at NASCAR's premier level since 2018. However, Legge's performance in her debut didn't exactly go as planned, which has led to lots of criticism. To her credit, compared to where she was in practice, she picked up the pace in qualifying despite starting in last place. Now, on lap 4, Legge brought out an early race caution after spinning on her own, but luckily there wasn't any damage to the car, so she kept going. However, later in the race, she was getting lapped again by the leaders and tried to stay on the inside lane throughout turn 2, but ended up travelling up the track into Josh Berry and spun the number 78 Live Fast Motorsport Chevrolet. Daniel Suárez had nowhere to go and crashed into Legge, ruining a strong day for the Trackhouse Racing driver, who was running inside the top 10 at the time of the accident. In an interview with Bob Pockrass from Fox Sports, Legge called her debut baptism of fire. but felt like there was positives to take away since she's learned a lot despite making mistakes and hope to do more Cup Series races in the future. After the race, Suárez voiced his opinion on his post-race vlog, saying he has nothing against Legge. He hopes female drivers can get into the sport, emphasizing that she wasn't the problem. He felt the problem was NASCAR for allowing somebody with no stock car racing experience to compete in the Cup Series. Also, on Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour podcast, he said Legge was thrown to the wolves because she was in the worst car in a Cup car that she's never driven before with limited NASCAR experience, and he understands the importance of bringing in drivers from different series. But Harvick thinks NASCAR needs to return to a level of accountability by making sure drivers who get approved are properly prepared to compete in the Cup Series. Then he brought up the example of Helio Castroneves crashing in his dual race, specifically the second hit when the full-time Indianapolis 500 champion floored it and crashed again due to his unfamiliarity with the Cup car. Harvick added that he felt that NASCAR made the right decision not to improve Mike Wallace to compete in the Daytona 500, given his lack of recent experience in a Cup car. His co-host, Caitlin Vince, said that NASCAR needs to be putting drivers in the best position to succeed. Photo taken by Chris Grantham from Getty Images. Matt and Tanner's back with us for this one as well. Here he is. Do you think the criticism of Katherine Legge's debut in the NASCAR Cup Series is fair game? And do you think that NASCAR needs to be stricter with its approval process?
Well, what was the line I used last week about NASCAR's rulebook being the greyest of grey? And yet again, we have to talk about something that we really shouldn't be having to talk about. Not the fault of Kat, let's just say. I thought she did the best job she probably could have done in the circumstances. As you mentioned, Josh, and it was mentioned, it's the worst, the worst equipment out there. I mean, she had that early spin. That's a rookie error, coldish tyres, trying to build up her pace at the beginning of the race, trying to run around at the back. And it was just a case of just log laps. And that's what they did after that. They were a few laps down, cracking through it. And myself and Matthew Owens were doing the race on USRN on Mixler.com. They cut to the shot of Katherine live there. And I said, and now we're looking at Katherine Legge. She's done, after that early spin, she's done a great job. And then all of a sudden she was sideways in turn two.
Hang on.
And being run into by Daniel. So it was a proper curse of the commentary moment.
You did it too. I did exactly the same
must have done
thing.
exactly the same thing.
No
my thoughts instantly went to Toby Moody after Marco Simoncelli crashed at Jerez that time in the lead.
Yeah.
What have I said? What have I done? Yeah. But I don't know. Tanner's probably got more thoughts on this than I think she did as good a job as she could have done. I don't think the criticism should be pointed at her as more the approval process and the rules and everything else.
Mike's on mute.
Good call. Yeah, so I definitely agree with Matt that the criticism around everything that has happened in this situation should not be centered around Katherine Legge. Katherine Legge has been a stalwart in motorsports for the past 20 years. She has done IndyCar. She has done IMSA. She has done sports cars, Formula E. She has done it all, including the NASCAR Xfinity Series, where at Road America in 2018, she got a top 15 in a JD Motorsports entry. I don't need to explain to our viewers how impressive that is in a car that she'd hardly ever driven. Now, one thing I will say, and it's important to point out, earlier this season on the CW broadcast for the Xfinity Series, they were talking about Harrison Burton, and he mentioned how much more difficult the Xfinity car is to drive compared to when he last drove one, which was at the end of the 2021 season. So we're talking about Katherine Legge having last driven a stock car somewhat regularly back in 2018. So imagine how much the car has changed in 7 years. And then you're going up to the Cup Series, which is a completely different platform from what your frame of knowledge is when it comes to stock car racing. And you combine all of that, and you only give her, I think they had a 45-minute practice prior to the qualifying this weekend because of the option tire being introduced into the Phoenix race weekend for Cup. And I still don't feel like 40 minutes plus 2 qualifying laps is really enough time for anybody on earth to get up to speed in a Cup Series car, especially when she only got like the week before and the week of in the simulator to test everything out. Again, I don't want to put any of this on Katherine Legge because I don't think it's relevant to the conversation where her credentials are. She is an amazing driver and she is fit to be in the Cup Series, but the problem comes down to amount of time in the car. And I feel like when NASCAR has a driver making their first start, they should at least grant them, like, I don't know, an additional 15, 20 minutes of practice time just so they can get their legs under them. We don't want to see these new drivers getting into the car and wrecking. I'm sure Katherine and BJ McLeod didn't want that to happen coming into this weekend. I'm sure NASCAR didn't want that to happen coming into this weekend. And yet, we don't do anything to help prevent it. So I don't know, like the whole conversation around this, I feel like the most level-headed about it has been Kevin Harvick. He had pretty much the same thing to say about this that I did, in that, you know, she just needed more seat time. And I'm just getting frustrated because, as Matt so eloquently pointed out, NASCAR's rulebook is just written in shades of gray. And I just feel like it's something we have to keep talking about every single week, is the officiating in the Cup Series. And frankly, I know that I've been on 3 or 4 different shows this past week having to talk about it, and it's getting annoying. I'm sure people in our audience are tired of hearing me come on here and talk about it, but it wouldn't be a problem if we just had more definitive ways to get drivers prepared for these races and to make sure that they're completely up to speed. Personally, I would have really liked to have seen her tackle an Xfinity car the day before just to double check, because obviously she did ARCA this year at Daytona, but she was out of the race in 4 laps. Not her doing, obviously. It's ARCA, unfortunately. And, you know, with that said, Daytona is a completely different track that requires a completely different skill set compared to Phoenix. So, yeah, I definitely think that it would have behooved her to have a little bit more experience, but I also think it would have behooved NASCAR and the entire Cup field had there been more practice for her or more opportunities for her to get behind the wheel and test some laps out to see what she can find in this car. Because let's face it, the 78 car, it's an open car now, so it's not making the same money that it used to when it had a charter, when Live Fast was running the full season. It also isn't going to like perform at the same pace that, say, even Cody Ware's car is supposed to run. But I'm even looking back at some of the tweets from that day, and I noticed something from Jonathan Field, one of our esteemed colleagues here. On the second channel, she was apparently running down Brad Keselowski, a Cup champion, in the 78 car. The girl had speed. Like she was
fast. Really fast.
She clearly had speed. Like, it's not like she wasn't good. It's not like she isn't capable in this car. It's just what happened in turn 2 in the third stage was just a really unfortunate moment that we see happen all the time with rookie drivers. I remember JJ Yaley absolutely cleaning Mark Martin out when he was trying to come on pit road in his rookie season in the Cup Series back in 2006, and then Mark Martin raked him over the coals for it. This is something that happens with rookies all the time coming into the Cup Series, but because Shane Van Gisbergen comes in and wins his very first race in the series, people's entire frame of reference has been completely thrown off. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm getting really annoyed with the conversation around this because I feel like too much of it is blaming it on Katherine Legge, and not enough of it is being pointed at the people upstairs that make the decisions like this and have the ability to make concessions when they're necessary. And instead, we're just writing weird terms into the charter agreement to get a 41st car into the race.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I stand on this. We need more practice time for young or inexperienced drivers to really get their feet underneath them in this car.
2 words: Quinn Houff.
I didn't want to go there, but yes.
Those that remember.
I'm glad you brought up the 41, by the way, because Bob Podcast 2 hours ago has tweeted,
Oh, yeah.
NASCAR has changed the open exemption provisional to where if it is granted, there will be 41 cars in the field. No more if that driver qualifies, then there's 40. But if the driver doesn't qualify, then there's 41. So the Helio Castroneves provisional that was at Daytona is now a set precedent going forward. Yeah. Not sure how I feel about that. Didn't really go down well either anywhere else.
I don't think we'll see it again until a certain S. Perez decides he wants to do the Cup race at Mexico City in June. I wouldn't worry about it until then.
Yeah, we've got time to wait, haven't we? Tanner, we're going to let you go after this now as well for the rest of the show. It's been an absolute blast having you on as well. Have you enjoyed yourself? And are you going to be watching this weekend?
Of course, I'll be watching this weekend. Yes. And of course, I had a fantastic time. So I do think we have one more question to get to, though, before I hop out of here. So, Josh,
yes. There we go. I've jumped the gun. I have jumped the gun because the script didn't load to me. So I have jumped the gun.
Penalty for a jump start for Josh.
Yeah. Sorry. Should I pay the 10 grand now? I still haven't got my mic shield back from a certain FIA president that we'll get on to later on. So we have actually got another question, or I've been reminded to. That's embarrassing for me. Maybe I should go to Specsavers. The initial game plan, of course, for Katherine Legge was to make a Cup Series debut at the Circuit of the Americas, but the team wasn't able to get the car ready in time. Now, given Legge's extensive background on road courses, Koto would have been a natural place for her Premier Start debut. But for Phoenix, Legge's only, oval starts in stock cars was an Xfinity Series race at Richmond back in 2018. And, of course, the ARCA season opener last month at Daytona. So, Tanner, coming back to you before we let you go on this one. If Legge wants to run another Cup Series race on an oval in the future, should she be required to run an Xfinity, trucks or ARCA first to gain more experience before being allowed to try ovals at the top level again? It's kind of what you were touching on a moment ago.
Yeah, I guess I'll just expand upon it a little bit more. I think ideally I would like to see her get into more stock cars or stock trucks and, make a couple more starts at some of these oval facilities. But again, she was making ground on a former champion of the sport at an oval where she hadn't raced in, I would assume, many years or ever. And I find that very impressive for, again, somebody that had never been in this style of car before. Now, one thing that stood out to me, and I mentioned this in last week's pre-race show when we were discussing Legge getting into the Cup car, Kyle Larson came out of Indianapolis last year and mentioned that the current Cup Series platform, the next-gen car, handles very, very similarly to a much slower version of an Indy car. So given that Katherine comes from an Indy car background and more of an open wheel background, it's really not surprising that she was able to find speed on a track where it does somewhat profile similarly to like Iowa or like a Richmond where, again, she's raced before. That said, again, I think it would behoove her and would help her learn how to finish one of these races out and kind of learn how to stay out of the way a little bit better, because I mean, I would like to hope that she could get a better ride next time, but they're not exactly plentiful in the Cup Series right now, the good rides that don't have a charter. So I would like to see her get a little bit more experience next time, but I don't think it is necessary. I just think that it would probably help in terms of her finishing out the next race on an oval if she were to have a little bit more experience, a little bit more recent experience behind the wheel. And I have a feeling this isn't the last we'll see of Katherine Legge in NASCAR, and personally, I really hope it isn't. So I definitely think that a little bit more experience next time would definitely help, but I don't think it's necessary.
Just checking the old stats while you were talking, Tanner. I was quite surprisingly that there isn't an IndyCar start for Kat at Phoenix. I thought there might have just been one somewhere along the line, but turns out not. So that was quite surprising. So you can add that to the list. New track, new car, new series, 2 different types of tyre to learn this weekend, of course, to throw into the mix as well. So backwards against the wall, some would say. Do they need to do something about this? Probably to stop this or something similar happening again. Some kind of super licensee kind of thing. You have to have done a number of starts in the series to move up with a decent average finish or running position number or driver rating, however they calculate that, or something along those lines. But then you wouldn't have the Helio Castroneves wanting to come and play, or Juan Pablo Montoya coming back last year to do the race at Watkins Glen, Kobe Ashes, Jenson Buttons, Ricky Taylor's, Shane Van Gisberger's of this world. So there's both hands, much like NASCAR's rulebook, 2 things fighting against each other at the moment. You can't have it all. You can't have your cake and eat it too, let's say.
Now we are going to let Tanner go as well. We've got to that part of the script. Yes. Tanner, how have you found it? All good?
Yes, for sure. And I look forward to hopefully being invited back in the future.
You will be, and hopefully I won't send you off before a question has been asked.
Sounds good. Well, y'all have a great rest of your evening, and thanks again.
You too, Tanner. Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to go cry in the corner of the embarrassment. So I'm not going to give it to Matt now. I'm going to give it to Kobe for more world news around this great motorsport season. Back to you, Kobe.
Thanks, Josh. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. 4-time Formula One world champion Max Verstappen is entering his own race team in this year's GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup. The team will be called Verstappen.com Racing and will field the number 33 Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3 in a joint effort with 2C's Motorsport, and Red Bull, unsurprisingly, will sponsor the car. Harry King, Thierry Vermeulen, and Chris Lowland will share the car. We've seen King have success in Porsche Cup competition, and Vermeulen has 2 full years of experience racing in GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup. However, Lowland is making the transition from sim racing to real life racing after doing a good job racing online for Team Redline. Verstappen said it's always been a dream of his to support young drivers and create the possibility of a sim driver progressing into real life racing. Photo courtesy of Verstappen.com Racing. When the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series goes to Martinsville Speedway later this month, Luke Baldwin will make his series debut with ThorSport Racing. Baldwin will drive the number 66 Ford with sponsorship from Mohawk Northeast Incorporated, and his crew chief will be Doug George. The son of Tommy Baldwin Jr. will also make 2 additional starts at Kansas and North Wilkesboro. He won the Smart Modified Tour Championship last season in his rookie year and made 4 starts in the Whelen Modified Tour for Tommy Baldwin Racing. Luke said the opportunity to go race in the Truck Series is a dream come true, and he's thankful to be with a top-notch organization. Graphic courtesy of ThorSport Racing. If you watch Monday night's Encore show, you know Brent Cruz won the ARCA Menard Series race at Phoenix Raceway. That was his first of several ARCA races he'll compete in this season, driving the number 18 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. He won in the JBL paint scheme, the same scheme he'll have at Dover, IRP, Iowa, and Watkins Glen. Then Mobile One will sponsor him at Rockingham, Lime Rock, Bristol, and the ARCA West season finale at Phoenix. Graphic courtesy of Joe Gibbs Racing. Team Amerivet will return to the NASCAR Cup Series at Martinsville Speedway. Multi-time Bowman Gray Stadium Modified Tour Track champion Burt Myers will return to the number 50 Chevrolet after participating in last month's Cookout Clash. C3 Skids will serve as the primary sponsor. Myers said he's super excited to get another chance to compete in the Cup Series at one of the most historic tracks in short track racing, graphic courtesy of Team Amerivet. Two-time Indianapolis 500 champion Takuma Sato will return to the greatest spectacle in racing for the 109th run-in with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Once again, Sato will drive the number 75, a Modern America Honda, as a teammate to Graham Rahal, Devlin DeFrancesco, and Louis Foster. In last year's Indy 500, Sato was the fastest driver from RLL, qualifying 10th, and he ended up finishing 14th. Sato said compared to last year, the car has a refreshed and dynamic new livery, and he's looking forward to working with familiar faces again. Graphic courtesy of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Ty Gibbs will make his sprint car racing debut in the High Limit Racing Series on Thursday night at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track. Gibbs will drive the number 84 sprint car for CB Industries with sponsorship from Monster Energy. Earlier this month, to prepare for his debut, Gibbs tested a Wing 410 sprint car at Carolina Speedway. Sprint car racing veteran Lynn Jeffrey was there to help Gibbs get up to speed, and he was impressed with how quickly Gibbs moved along. Gibbs also plans to compete in additional high-limit sprint car races later in the year. Graphic courtesy of Blackbeard Ltd. McLaren signed Oscar Piastri to a multi-year contract extension days before his home Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne. Piastri will continue to race in papaya colors long term. Last season, he won the Hungarian and Azerbaijan Grand Prix races, including podiums in Monaco, Austria, Spa, Monza, Singapore, and Qatar. He also picked up another Qatar sprint race victory. Piastri was also the only F1 driver to complete every single lap of the 2024 season. He said it's a great feeling knowing that he's a part of McLaren's long-term vision and feels excited to fight for big prizes as a driver after taking the Constructors last year as a team. Photo courtesy of McLaren. New Orleans Saints running back and network growth and engagement advisor Alvin Kamara will lead active NFL players in the NFL Players Association Career Experiences Program that gives them an exclusive look into the NASCAR industry. On March 21st through 23rd, NFL players will attend the NASCAR race weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway, and through this program, NASCAR is offering players the chance to shadow industry professionals, gain valuable insights into motorsports, and experience race day operations firsthand. This unique opportunity will expose them to hands-on elements of the sport and business operations, including communications, social media, and marketing. Graphic courtesy of the NFL Players Association. And now I'm going to turn over to Matt for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner on a super busy racing weekend, our first of the year.
Yeah, massive pick a winner weekend. Just before we get to that, Hots and Knots coming up. If you're watching live, get your Hots and Knots in and we'll read them out as we go. Pick a winner then. There it is. There is the standings as we run. 11 people on the list. Still top. I've got 7 points. I've got a 2-point advantage over Kobe. And our guest, Tanner, is up in the third place there on 4 as well. Josh is on 3 in 6th position. But there is 9 pick a winner points up for grabs this weekend. Let me run you through them quickly. We're going to do a few of them on the show in a moment. Sebring 12 hours on Saturday for IMSA. 2 points available for MotoGP at Argentina. The Grand Prix in Australia. And then there is 4 points available for Supercars in Melbourne, of which the first race comes up later on today, Australian time. First practice is in about an hour and a half from when this show goes out live. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday of the Grand Prix weekend in Melbourne, they have a supercar race every single day, along with F2 and F3 and, of course, the Grand Prix. We'll start on 2 wheels for tonight's fest of picker winners, and that is MotoGP back in action for round 2 and back in Argentina for the first time in, I think, 2 years since they've been away from the Termas de Rio Hondo circuit. Going to be interesting, and it's going to be Marc Marquez again. That's my pick for the sprint race on Saturday.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Marc Marquez is going to be the big point getter this year for pick a winner, or maybe Christopher Bell if his run continues in the NASCAR Cup Series. But yeah, Marc Marquez is my pick as well. I don't really see anyone really challenging him right now, but maybe Paco Bagnaia will sneak one in. But for now, I'm on team Marc Marquez. So you got Josh.
unanimous Marc Marquez. What a connection he's got to that bike at the moment. And the only real challenger seems to be coming from his brother. Pecco thought he had to fight one of them. He's now having to fight both of the Marquezes. Argentina is a circuit that lends itself to Marc's riding style. I think it's going to be another dominant weekend. There is a bit of weather in the air, though, so that could throw a spanner in the works, but it's Marc Marquez on a Ducati. That's easy.
Let's pivot back to another place where weather is going to be in the air over the weekend, which is Melbourne, and the famous Melbourne phrase, if you don't like the weather in Melbourne, wait 5 minutes and it'll be something different. Supercars, as I mentioned, race today, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. We're going to pick the first three tonight, although I think these might change throughout the weekend. Generally a Holden / Chevrolet track over the last however many years they've been coming to support the Grand Prix. Should we do these all in one go? Let's go Feeney, Brown, Waters for the moment, but I might change them. They're my Thursday, Friday, Saturday picks for Supercars at Melbourne. Kobe, who are you going with?
For race 1 and race 2, give me Will Brown. Race 3, I say Cam Waters. How about you, Josh?
See, I was thinking Cam Waters would do another one and do all three, but 4 this weekend is the case in Australia, but it's a very difficult circumstance. That rain is still coming in. So I think for the first 2 races, I'm going to lock in Cam Waters, and then I'm still going to wait for the next 3 and 4. Because remember last year, we had repeat winners race 1 and race 2, and then race 3 and 4 were totally different because by the time the F1 guys get out there, rubber changes. So it all changes out there because F1, F2, and F3 plus Porsches, the track just completely changes from the start to the end of the weekend, and it's a different ball game.
Yeah, you're right. This today is what they would generally know from a Supercars weekend. It's just them and Porsches out on the track today, rubbering the track up, ready for the Pirelli rubber to be going down over the rest of the weekend. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And our last pick a winner for the show tonight is Saturday's big race in Florida, the Sebring 12 Hours. I'm going to go with Porsche, and I'm going to go with the 6 car to win on Saturday evening or nighttime, as it will be once the checkered flag drops. Kobe, who are you going with?
I promise I'm not copying you, Matt, but I'm also gonna go with the number 6 Porsche as well. I think Matthew Jomine, Matt Campbell, Kevin Estra. I think they're gonna end up getting the one that got away last time out at Daytona. Who you got, Josh?
7. I've gone for 7. Just because of what happened at Daytona, I think we've got a good shot going on here at the moment. And I was going to say V9, but they didn't impress me much. And Jackson was hyping up the Porsches earlier on, especially with the Penske line. So I'm going number 7.
So that's it then. That's our pick of winners for the show. Adam is going with Mark for the sprint with all of us. And he's going Feeney, Brown, Waters as well, which is, I think, what me and Kobe both said as well for the first 3 races, and the number 6 for Sebring. So we're all kind of in agreement there. Use hashtag pick a winner on across all social medias. We're everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it this week. Blue Sky, Freds, all of those. Get your comments in below. We'll add them to the leaderboard if you can pick them up. I'm sure Joe will roll a bonus point in if someone can get all 9 right this weekend. Good luck on that one. And get your picks in and use the hashtag pick a winner. We'll update the leaderboard next week after the biggest pick a winner. I think it is actually the biggest pick a winner weekend of the whole season, of 9 points up for grabs this weekend. So get those in across social media. And don't forget that the Supercars race is on in about 6 hours, the first one, wherever you're watching around the world, live with Melbourne time, American time, UK time on different time to American time this week. It's all a bit of a blur. What isn't a blur, though, is our traditional end of the show, which is Hots and Nots for myself and Josh to run through. I'm not sure I have any hots. I'll tell you what, the Cup race was good on Sunday. I really enjoyed the Cup race with the 2 different tyres. They were excellent finish. We got to the end without controversy. Okay, we did to some degree at Kota last week, but there was a little bit of bumping and barging going on, but we actually got a good finish. Christopher Bell just unstoppable at the moment. I think that's really my only hot from what was actually quite a quiet weekend, which is, I'm guess for you, was quite nice to have a quiet weekend in the build up to this weekend's craziness.
It was actually, I must admit. I sort of came into the comment. Well, I sat through the interviews that we have from NASCAR on the media site, picked out the bits I wanted. So Byron's poll, Katherine Legge quote, And then I was also, because they allowed it, we've just got to credit Fox and NASCAR, the 2-minute highlight of the racing. So able to throw that in. And the interviews post race, I thought, I've got a nice little build up here, nice little show. I really enjoyed the race, and I found it a lot of fun. And yeah, it was just sort of a good, calm weekend. So yeah, not too bad, not too bad. The only not is the fact that the Sky F1 team have been announced, and she's still there. Told you.
But they've added someone decent though.
Jamie Chadwick, yeah, that's brilliant to bring her in. That is a big hot for them to bring in Jamie, who's won 3 W Series championships, plus an Indy Lights race as well, and now is in the European Le Mans Series as a pro driver. Fantastic for her to be on the call for some races this year. My understanding is also they're going to move her up into the commentary box as well for practice and alongside in some of the races this year as well. So that's good. Good news.
She's been part of the Channel 4 team from time to time over the last couple of years, and what I've seen of her on there, she was very, very good. So that is good news. They've got pretty much everyone back that we knew was coming back, apart from Damon, of course, which got announced before the Abu Dhabi weekend, didn't it, last year, that he was going to be out. So pretty much everyone else has returned on the Sky side. I think another hot is just the fact that this weekend is so busy, and apart from, well, I mean, you're going to be up all night, but I'm kind of not looking forward to getting up at 4 o'clock on Sunday, and I'm not picking it as my pick a winner. But about 6 a.m. UK time, if that loud noise you hear coming from Melbourne is them exploding because a McLaren has won and not the one with Lando in it. But I'm not going to say it out loud because that would be a curse.
Oh, I am an Oscar winner. That is what it truly is. That helps.
Just say, wouldn't it be amazing if he could win on home soil? I mean, to start the season.
I was writing my notes out yesterday, ready for the weekend, and I wrote fourth place finish, equaling the best of an Australian driver, Danny Ricciardo. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be good if it just changed? And it could go forward. Well, actually, it equals both Ricciardo and Webber. So wouldn't it be good if it could just be the podium and maybe the win? Is it going to be up there? So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for it, because it's going to rain. We've got 90% chance of it on Sunday. 6 rookies on the grid. Effectively only 4. But it's going to be all-out war. And I can't wait. It is shaping up to be a fantastic weekend in Melbourne. And, do you know, Jenny was right. You'll hear the interview coming out over the weekend in the build-up show to either qualifying or the race. Jenny said, it feels right that we start the season in Australia. And I said, it does feel right, but I kind of like Bahrain for the fact that it was on a proper racetrack. Didn't like the atmosphere, but Bahrain on a racetrack gave us a good idea of the pecking order. But the closer we're getting to it, it's like, oh God, this is actually the start, isn't it? It's like, it just feels better that we're in Australia to start it. And I'm finding myself smiling, and it is the best place for the race. It really, really is. There's nothing wrong with Melbourne. It is turned into one of the top races of the year since they made the alterations, and it works again. Not many street circuits or even racetracks would change their layout to suit the cars. Silverstone did it, and it took a while for that to work. And then Melbourne did it, and it clicked instantly. Fantastic. And I'm loving it. And now a wet race to start the year? Yes. It hasn't happened, I think. Ooh, wet race to start the year. 2013,
Melbourne, obviously.
13, I want to say. When we had that rain out in quali.
Was it the silly knockout qualifying year, that one? Was that wet?
That was 2016. Was it wet then?
I can't remember.
Was that when Alonso went rolling?
Oh, yeah.
It was wet then, yeah, in quali, yeah.
In quali it was, yeah. You're right.
But I think the last time a wet race for a season opener was 2013 off the top of my head, when it was sort of intermediate dries because of that rain shower. Proper wet races, and it's thrown it down since the start. Well, Bahrain, it never has, so you'd have to go back to Australia.
Brazil
Brazil too, yeah. I forgot about that.
I agree with you that it's Australia being the first race is it just takes me back to getting up at silly o'clock in the morning and seeing Jim Rosenthal or Steve Ryder on ITV. It's like, right, we're off. Here we go. It's the start. We're in now. Let's hope it goes. To use a line I heard on a podcast today, let's hope it goes better than the last time we tried to start the Formula One season in Melbourne in 2020.
Lockdown 5 years ago. I agree with Adam's statement there. Jamie Chadwick on Sky F1 coverage. She's 110% better than Danica. Yeah, there she is.
She pops up every now and then.
But that's it, really. I haven't really got any more hots and knots. Just that I'm starting ready for the year. It's getting good.
I have a one knot. And it's quite a sizable one. AO Racing.
Yeah.
It was a Porsche team. Came in a couple of years ago with such fanfare with their dinosaur livery, and then they've got the LMP2 car, Spike the Dragon, and it's a fan favourite, and the kids love it because it looks like a dinosaur. But don't copy their scheme because they're going to copyright the teeth on the front, and everyone's now they threw themselves under the bus. Did AO with their announcement this week about the copyright of their scheme, even though lots of teams have been putting teeth on the front of Porsche 911s forever. But now because it's popularized, they've what a big faux pas that has gone down like a fart in a lift.
Well, it gets to me the fact that it's lights out and away we go is also trademarked to Crofty, and yet it was created by Ben Edwards. So that gets to me a little bit.
Look but never stare.
Yeah, look but never stare. That was great from Martin. That was fantastic. That one really works. I've got two of the action in for Formula One, but I really have been liking my MotoGP one, and pull the throttle back as we go racing. I thought that's fun. That's a great one because you really do have to pull it back. I was like, oh, I like that. It came to me last year in San Marino, or maybe the year before. I thought, oh, try it, and it works, and it sort of stuck. As well. Yeah. Might have I think I've got Lizzie on the call this weekend. She's in Devon though, so fingers crossed she'll be in for Argentina.
Yeah, looking forward to that. See how that it will be an absolute dust bowl on Friday at Termax because it always is. What will the pit building look like after it almost burnt down a couple of years ago? And just all the other Argentinian stuff that goes with it. Let's hope we get a crazy race like we had in 2018, was it, when they all started when they left Jack Miller at the front of the grid and there was Mark versus Rossi and Cal came through to win. That was
don't doubt me.
Don't doubt me. What a race that was.
Oh, great day. Although we were stood around looking like, well, what's going on here then? Because they lined up on the grid and half the field came into the pit lane and they said, no, you can't do that because it's unsafe now to do that because the pit lane is
otherwise it would have been Hamilton in Hungary.
Yeah.
Before Hamilton in Hungary.
It was a dull situation. Although it was a good idea, to be fair, given the advantage. Because by the time he got to turn one, they all would have left the pit lane. They actually measured the distance and at least they had to make up grid hatchings, which I made a laugh because they walked the way. They chalked it, didn't they? And then they put all the little numbers out, and that was a weird day. I remember Craig Doyle, bless him, who was hosting that weekend
on BT, yeah.
And he's a rugby guy, and he did not have a Scooby what was going on.
I think
so. That would
have been early in the BT tenure, wouldn't it? Back in those days,
28 was 13 to 18, yeah. Well, we had Melanie Sykes, and then she disappeared after 5 races when she suddenly remembered. Yeah, she suddenly remembered that she didn't like bikes. Then it was Steve Irwin and Abby Griffiths. Then it was Susie and Craig. Then Craig left
for a while, and then Craig left to stick to rugby.
And Susie stayed full time, and now she splits it. She's with Natalie and Rachel.
Yes. Yeah. Surprised to see Susie at Thailand after that was where she got struck down with illness a couple of years ago.
She's had the vaccination. She's even in Argentina.
Oh, excellent. Good stuff. Well, that's good to know.
Last time
Well,
she was there was 2019 and he got killed.
yeah, not good.
By the way, 21 years since the start of the Gadget Show. Susie posted a picture of her in her cat suit earlier on today.
Goodness me, I was talking about the Gadget Show with someone at work yesterday.
Yes, happy birthday, Gadget Show. Right, taking a look at our upcoming schedule, it's a biggie. So keep an eye out on our new Grid Live pre-race show format on Thursday night and at Saturday at noon Eastern as well. Sunday, our Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And Monday, Grid Encore, 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the trucks and Xfinity races at Las Vegas, plus the F2 and F3 season openers in Australia. I'll be dropping by to say hello. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,500 subscribers. And now we're inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air, and you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit our website gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network, and we encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air, and once we hit $500 per month we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to that is in the video description below. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. You can consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. So for Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Tanner Smith from Pitbox Press, I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.